Hi there, I'm Sandy Allnock, and I am a friend of Ellen Hudson's, and she asked if I would do a twin tip marker video and give you a sneak peek of next month's release of Cozy Lady. So let's first talk about the twin tip markers. They're by Zig. They're related to the clean color pens. So if you like the clean colors, you might well like these. They have two tips on them. One is a rubberized brush nib, but it's not a hairy brush like the clean colors are. It's just a regular marker brush nib. And the other is a bullet nib. I'm also going to use two brushes. If you haven't seen these, I wanted to show you something on these silver brushes that I love. If you take them out of the little plastic, they're hard. And if you kind of bend them, then there's like this hard thing. And it's like everybody asks, what is that? And it's a gum arabic. You want to rinse that off really well. And I even rinse it and then I change my water because I don't want any of that gum arabic in anything. But it will rinse out pretty easily. I just kind of smoosh it around in my water a little bit. And look how beautiful those points are, even with a 12 and an 8. And the 12 and the 8 are the sizes that I like the best. I'm using the 12 more and more because I can use the 12 even on tiny details. Behind my work, I'm going to be using the Craft Assistant, which is a 12 by 12 piece of metal that cleans up really nicely. Mine comes with dog hair. Yours probably will not. And I'm going to show you still pictures of the masking that I did here because I just figured that would be easier than having you watch me do all the masks and everything. So first I stamped the boots because I wanted her boots on her in front of her feet and the book, but I wanted her arm to come out in front of the book. So I kind of masked that off. I used a scrap piece that I stamped in order to figure out where all those things should be. And I masked off just the top and the bottom of the book so that I'm going to be able to have her arm go through there. And I ended up finding, finally, my Eclipse tape so I can do real masks instead of sticky note masks. So that's what you'll see here. I did her a scarf, and that's all masked out, and stamped her on top of all that, and then those other pieces will be blocked off from her stamping on top of them. So that's how I get my masking scenes done. I left her boots on there because I wanted to stamp something down low at the bottom of the card. And I also stamped just the bottom portion of her, just her legs and her hand. I wanted to block off her hand because I wanted to put a basket in it. And that allowed me to stamp the basket right in there. I could stamp it right on top, and when I take off the masks, you're going to see it looks like it's behind it. And then the final step is to add apples in there, which I masked off real easy with a sticky, and then I put a bunch of leaves. There's 2 leaves in the stamp set, so you'll be able to stamp a whole pile of them. I didn't mask off any of them down there. I just randomly put one in the other, and you'll see how that comes into play once we start the coloring of the background. Now these markers are very cool. This is the rubberized brush nib. Now you may find on some papers you'll get a squeaky sound because they are rubber. They're a little different than other markers I've used before, but they blend really nicely when you just go one color next to another. And you can scribble off to get extra color off of them. You can also use a brush. This is my number 8 that I'm going to use on the image itself because it's a smaller one. But here I can put down the dark color, and I tend to work dark to light with these markers because then the light color kind of pulls some of that darker color throughout. And here I'm going to leave some white highlights on her hair even so that she has even lighter hair. And I'm just kind of mushing the color around. You can see how that breaks down really easily, just like it does with the clean color markers. And on her sleeve here, I'm going to use 2 different yellows, or her whole jacket, should I say. And I have to use yellow because yellow is my color. If you don't know me, everything I do has some yellow in it somewhere. So she's going to be wearing a little yellow shirt, going out in the fall to read her little book, and she's going to snack on an apple. It just seems like a perfect day, doesn't that? So those 2 colors, if they don't match and blend really well, you can just take your damp brush and go over them and just move the color, and it moves really easily, just like with the Zig Clean colors. Now, if you already have the Zig Clean colors, but there's a few colors you wished you had a different nib for, these would be great. So if you want a writing nib, then know that the colors are just about the same. There's, I think, 2 or 3 colors added to this that are not in the clean color, but the rest of the colors are pretty much the same. It seems like the ink is the same. I haven't noticed any difference there. It's just a different kind of marker delivery method with the nibs, the 2 nibs that you have as an option. So if you're good with a brush nib like I am, then you can color all these little things in, or you can use the little teeny tiny nib to get into stuff like those little apples. So here on her scarf, I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the pants and didn't really talk through. I just put a little color where the shadows are and then took a damp brush. Don't get it too wet or else it gets really soppy and that sort of thing. And just paint that color out. It just moves that color. Now this is not watercolor, just so you know. They're not, as far as I know, archival, but they work a lot like watercolor. For her basket, I'm trying 2 colors, and sometimes the colors blend really easily and sometimes a little less, and I decided I was gonna go back and do some work on this after I finished because my apples are bleeding into it. I didn't wait long enough for the apples to dry. I am nothing if not impatient. So my basket is gonna be a little bit on the pink side if I don't go back and do something. But in the meantime, I'm gonna go do the trees in the background, and this is gonna be the easiest thing you've ever done, and I want you to try it. And scribble color. Just scribble a bunches of color. You can scribble some colors next to each other so that the marker will actually blend the color a little bit, but you don't have to. Just showing that you can. And then we're gonna use the brush to move the rest of the color. Now I'm trying to get right along the image. I don't want to use my brush too much next to the image, or touching it with water will make the color from the image blend in, so I might get some crossover. So I'm trying to use the markers for the blending right around the edge. And filling in this other area with lots of colors, even throwing some brown in, all different kinds of colors. You can just have a blast with it. You can do the same thing with your Zig Clean colors to do a background like this. And by the way, I'm doing this on the Canson XL paper. Lots of folks have trouble using the Zig markers on my favorite paper, which is the Arches. I like the Arches Rough and the Arches Cold Press, but these markers tend to move better and move more easily and smoothly, I guess you would say, either on some letterpress paper or on some of the lower, I shouldn't say lower quality, lesser quality, less expensive types of watercolor papers that are really smooth. And this one doesn't have much of a tooth, so it's going to move this color really easily. But look how messy that background is, look how messy the ground is. Take note of that in your mind, and then once we get this brush going, you're going to be like, whoa. Now look how nice and big this brush is. And I'm just squishing water out of it as I go. You may want to take a piece of paper and practice and see how much water you need, because you could go overboard. You don't want to go overboard. But look at how beautiful all of that just mushed out. And if you take the brush and turn it upside down the way I am, you're pushing water out of the side of the brush where your hand is. You're pushing it out of there, so it's a little cleaner than the water in the point of the brush. So you can get little lighter colors up at the top. And then for the ground, I'm just scribbling color right over top. Remember I said you didn't have to worry about masking out all those leaves? Because all that color down there is just gonna mush together anyway. Now for the little tiny details on this, I can use the other end of the marker nib and get lots of little details. So this little part, I love these shirts that have little bits hanging out of them because it makes you look like you're wearing cool layers. And they usually also are flouncier, so they hide my little tummy a little bit better too. Yay for that. And if you have any color that splooged over into the outfit while you were doing all the painting in the background, just use some white and make some, use your Signo pen, your Uniball pen, and make some white polka dots or something. And now I'm going to go back and fix my little, my little red basket and turn it back into a brown basket by adding more color to it. And even adding some lines right along the crisscross there. You could even add those using the writing nib. And look at what a fun little background that makes really easily with just a couple brushes and a few of these colors. You can pick out even just a couple colors and try them out because they're so much fun. Supplies are all going to be listed in the description as well as over on the blog. And we'll see you another time. You have a great fall. Take care and go color something beautiful. Bye-bye.